You think you got what it takes to run with the Outlaws? We'll see about that.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Outlawed Live, the official podcast of the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling Association. Check us out every single Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. It is right at that time, so we're going to talk about some things, get rocking and rolling here. Mike Idle covering for Ron Stone this week. Ron and his better half are taking a much-needed vacation before the season gets going. Seriously, that guy works his tail off, working on schedules, working on sponsorships, and being the voice of the Outlaws. So glad to see him get some time away. And Ron, if you're watching or if you sneak back to this, hope you're having a great time. I saw some of your photos where you guys were shoving off there, going on a little cruise. So some much needed, much earned time off for Mr. Ron Stone. So flying solo tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how things are going in your neighborhood and just kind of what's on your mind with the truck and tractor pulling world out there. A couple of things I want to go over this evening. We're going to highlight some of our first pulls that we're going to be having this year. We're going to take a look and discuss briefly Norfork, Nebraska, which is going to be debuting the season June 5th. And then the following weekend, it'll be June 12th and 13th, I think is how the camera or how the calendar plays out right there, where we're going to go to Ravena, Nebraska. Now, Ravena really been plagued by rain over the past 3 seasons. Anyway, each of the past 2 years that I've gone over there to announce, I have yet to see a Friday night session. It's been rained out each time. Saturday night has been in session. I was told that the year before that, the whole thing was a complete and total wash. So they've kind of shuffled their deck a little bit. And as the schedule was being built, and the schedule's still not 100% in stone just yet, but as that schedule was being put together, Ravena was going to jump back a week and still kickstart the season. But then Norfork kind of jumped in and grabbed that initial date. So we will start things off in Norfork. Great pull out there. Been to that one 2 years in a row as well. And then we'll slide over to our big 2-day show in Ravena, Nebraska the following weekend. And we're going to talk a little bit about that big full pull on the turf presented by the Wager family down there in Colbert, Oklahoma, and talk about some neat posters, some neat trophies that he's going to be giving away, some neat prizes that everyone's going to walk away with for all the pullers down there, all the winning contestants. Case Conover watching from Lytle, Texas, like always. Thanks for checking in with us. CL Farm Toys saying hello. Cole Lundahl says good evening from Wakefield, Nebraska. Always good to hear from you, Cole, as well as Tina and Eric out there in Wilbur, Nebraska. Robert Miner saying hello from Niobrara. Good to hear from you. Chris Kilberger checking in. Howdy, howdy. Thanks for watching tonight. A lot of you guys out there. We'll get to these comments, these welcome comments, and we'll kind of sink our teeth into some things we got going on. Ben Beller says hello from Kansas. Robert Miner says, hope you all safe from the storms moving in. Yeah, that's what Ben was just saying, watching the weather for tonight. Didn't know anything about it. We are smooth sailing and clear blue skies here in Northeast Missouri. But, I might have to turn the radio on and stay tuned. You never know what can happen in early spring. Terry Mammon checking in from Correctionville. Andrew Sprock checking in. Andrew, I want you to hang around and watch this because something's going to pertain to you later. One thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to make my 2026 predictions for champions. Now, it's kind of an interesting game that I played today. And I'll just go ahead and say this now. Sprock going to run the full point series with the Outlaws. I spent a lot of time debating whether or not I felt that that was going to be my championship pick. As far as a team that I feel has everything they need to make a run for the championship, I think that both of their trucks are capable of that. And I thought long and hard about making them my pick. So that is the thing I'm going to do on the back half of the show tonight. I'm going to let you guys hear my announcers' picks, points champions for the 2026 season. Now, that's a big deal for me because I try to stay impartial. This is something I try almost never to do. But this year, I'm going to go ahead and say, here are some vehicles that as an analyst, if I can use that term for the Outlaws, that I am going to be keeping a special eye out for. And Mr. Andrew Sprock, I'll tell you that you were right at the top of that list, you and your team. Here's another good one right here. Case Conover is excited about the Texas merging. Now, I do want to address, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and bring that up, Case. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So with the specific verbiage here. So for anyone who has not heard, and I'll go ahead and throw that up on the screen, and I'm just going to read the press release. I'm not going to get in or speculate into any higher meanings of that because I'm not an upper management individual, but this was released on our Facebook page earlier this week. Texas Truck and Tractor Pullers Association is being brought on board as a member state. So for anyone who can see this, TTTPA joins Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling Association as a member organization. The Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling Association is proud to announce that effective March 30th, 2026, the Texas Truck and Tractor Pulling Association has officially become a new member organization of OTTPA. Now, and I have heard, or I have addressed some comments. I've seen some people using words like merger and whatnot. The only thing I want to say to that, and I don't want to speak to this a whole lot, like I said, because I'm not management at all. Member state are not ubiquitous terms out there. That being said, I could not be happier for this. So Texas Truck and Tractor Pullers Association are coming on as a member state association, very much identical to the National Sled Pullers Association, who is already a member state of ours. If you look at the big three associations, you will see that there are several quote unquote member states affiliated with them. This is how NTPA did things long time ago, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and on to this day. You have your national level pulling, you have a regional level pulling, you have your member state level pulling, and oftentimes member states like to join a national brand out there as a larger sphere of that. Texas is such a good fit. Such a good fit. I say it all the time. Just the state of Texas, the pullers from Texas are one of the biggest assets that the Outlaws have. So this is a very natural fit. So love seeing TTTPA joining as a member state with the Outlaws. I've kind of watched some of their content down there. I've never been to the state of Texas, but this is one of those member states, like so many, that just does a phenomenal job. So very happy about that. Ben Beller saying, hopefully the Texas Truck and Tractor Pulling Association gets the Outlaw Live coverage. They got a pull coming in just 2.5 weeks, I believe. Yeah, and this is one of those too where Full Pull, kind of our parent organization when it comes to the live stream and media, I feel has always done a nice job of trying to get down there to Texas and live stream those. I need to do some more research just as a fan and a broadcaster, making sure that I know which pulls are TTTPA and any other organizations down there before I speculate about, what's what and everything. But I know I've watched Thunder by the Colorado and a couple of other pulls, and just always awesome stuff. Super cool. I read an article on them in the 1985 edition of the Puller. They were the featured member state of NTPA, like that November or something like that. And it was fun to just kind of read about who was running that association back then at the time. You had names like Durwood Blagrave and George Neves, current Outlaw Hall of Famer, I believe, was the secretary of Texas Truck and Tractor Pullers. So just a great fit, great state, a lot of friends down there, excited for that. Speaking of other news and kind of bulletins posted and whatnot, and I'll just share my screen for this one. And speaking of NTPA and member states and things in that veil right there, jump over onto the Facebook page and to see if I can get this screen shared up here. And this, yet again, just another release that I'm just going to read to you guys out here. Happy to see things like this developing as well. Big news for 2026. This was released on April 9th for the 2026 season. Competitors holding a valid NTPA or Outlaw competition license will be able to enter events in either series without purchasing an additional license. So this is one license, more events, and more opportunities to compete. So love seeing this right here with the ongoing alliance that we are developing with NTPA. So now just one license is all we will need between the two of them. So we love to see that out there. You know, fans, they've been calling for stuff like this for a long time. They want to see more unification. They want to see more standardization. They want to see a more singular approach to things. And there has been a lot developing and pulling over the past 2 to 5 years. And so taking strides like this and seeing great state associations like Texas and seeing great national associations like the Outlaws and like NTPA all kind of work towards a common goal is always exciting. So a couple of press releases right there, and we're happy to bring that up. Chris Kilbarger says, agreed, Ohio state tractor pullers used to be NTPA, but it's under PPL banner. This is true. And it's one of those two, I kind of like to think about what is the quote unquote gold standard of state level associations. OSTPA is obviously a very good one. I think there's at least 2 in Wisconsin, and you got WTPA as well as Badger State. A lot of people say Badger State is one of the best out there. I would argue TTTPA, that Texas is right up there with them. I think there's a couple here in Missouri between MSTPA and a couple others that are really putting out a great product right now. And we talk about this all the time in pulling too. Don't look at it. Caution against looking at it as national level, as the professionals, and regional as AAA, and state level as AA. It's not so much that, because we all know that the iron is awesome at any level. It's more the amount of traveling that these individuals are looking to participate in. You know, the big national level pullers will go Texas to South Dakota, to Illinois to chase a championship. But other guys, you know, they've got farms, they've got businesses, and sometimes it just makes more sense to stay in Wisconsin or stay in Missouri, stay in Texas. So don't ever look at it as like as a rank there. It's just more of a structure. Andrew Sprock says Texas is awesome pickup for the Outlaws. Completely agree. And just a hand in a glove. I feel like we have such a great relationship with the state of Texas, and that's something that we always want to keep going. Yeah, this was interesting. I wondered this too, as to how that would correlate to Bowling Green. Now, I will say, like we always say, that is still the same date that we have Wisner. So, and honestly, if nothing else, and I don't know if people think about this, but yeah, you could take every 2-wheel drive that has an Outlaw or an NTPA license and send them over to Bowling Green. But all those guys now have that same opportunity at Wisner. So I see no reason either where a puller from Kansas, South Dakota, Colorado says I can stay more local at Wisner. Wisner can act as a pressure release for Bowling Green. You know, it is, I would say, one of the top 5 biggest pulls in the nation, but Bowling Green can get so big where people have actually voiced some, you know, challenges with it. Sitting through 80 2-wheel drives might not be what everybody wants to see. With a license where they can go to either, what if we had 40 at each? You know, I'm all for something like that. Cole says that is Thunder by the Colorado, May 1st and 2nd on Full Pull Live with Texas Truck and Tractor Pullers Association. So very good. Cole, thank you for doing the research for me right there and supporting me with that. Kay says only one association here in Texas that does trucks and tractors. The rest are antique. It's different for them. So I had kind of heard that before, that the whole state was just under a single banner, but I didn't want to misspeak because it's wild that the state is so big and has just a single banner. I know here in Missouri, I think there's about 4 or 5 state level associations, but really cool there that's kind of their single thing that they've got going on. So let's get back, talk about some pulls we've got coming up around the corner. We'll call it a month. Let's go ahead and tap this out. Say that we're at the end of April. We'll round up. Okay, April's done. We're done with April. So we got May to get out of the way, and then it's June, and then we're going to Norfork, Nebraska. So a couple of interesting things that Ron kind of suggested, and I think it's a great idea. He said, why don't we pull up some clips from Ravena, get the fans kind of hyped up? And I thought, well, let's go ahead and grab some from Norfork. So here's a couple of clips that I pulled out courtesy of Full Pull Live. Norfork, Nebraska, June 5th, and then Ravena, Nebraska, the following weekend. These are clips that we had from last year and a couple of pullers that I'm going to be talking about later on tonight. So first clip that I have, Chad Weisenkamp, a former points champion, going to take his super farm called Someday for a ride at Thunder by the Ranch in Norfork, Nebraska. Start getting excited because this pull is not terribly far away. Let's take a look.
Hey, what do we say? Hey, why not here? What? I think we have a class. Do we have a new overall biggest distance?
Kind of hard to hear, but you can see Chad Weisenkamp pulls into the lead right there on what was a very tricky power track that they had at Norfork this year. Took the pullers off hard to the right-hand side. That was the first solo show that I did in 2025, and man, we battled audio issues, something fierce at that show. I think about it constantly. There's so many things that I think contributed to that audio issues. You don't know what you don't know until you learn that you don't know it. I'm excited to be going back again this year because I'm hoping that we can get that audio sorted out. But it was a great pull. I was kind of rewatching it today. It was actually better than I remembered it being. More classes. They had 3200 Superfield. They had the modified two-wheelers. They had the Super Farms. They had the Pro Stock trucks. And I think they had the LLPs as well. So really tight show at one of the most unique venues that you can watch a pull at. It's a whole off-road motorsports complex with an RV park and a bar all cinched together. It really is. I've like I said, I've gone there 2 years in a row, and I've had a great time both times. Let's take another look. Yeah, LLPs definitely were pulling at Norfork because here's Mike Masonbrink, another one to keep an eye out for in 2026.
He's looking a better 309.02. Mike Masonbrink driving inches matter. To the right-hand side of the track and not going to get the job done tonight as there was a lot of power.
Yeah, so there we see a little John Deere power following the red power there, different class. Now, I want to bring up a comment right here. Cole says, don't forget the wind that night. He said the racetrack was like a dust bowl. It was very windy. I actually was very impressed with the track prep crew for what they did because I don't remember that track drying out on those pullers. You see both those pullers hooking hard to the right as it took a lot of power from them. I don't remember the wind either because I was up in that nice air-conditioned booth, but I wonder if that had something to do with the audio issues, having a hard time transmitting back and forth across the racetrack down there. But I picked up some tips as the season went on. Brandon Gillen coming to the rescue with some more good information, says they plan on being in Columbus, Texas, May 1st and 2nd. So that's going to be awesome. And like they said, you can watch that on Full Pull Live. So definitely one that I want to watch. I think they live streamed it down there last year as well. We had several outlaw pullers. I think that's really close to where Cole and Whitey are from, and maybe not terribly far from where Donald and Mindy and the Nelson crew are hailing from as well. So a couple of good highlights there from Norfork just to wet the whistle. Then we'll head out farther west the following weekend for a 2-day show at really one of the cornerstone pulls with the Outlaws out there in Ravena, Nebraska. Another really unique venue that we have to go pulling in Anavar Park. Beautiful city park, just a great big area for families and camping yet again, and a huge pull, 2-day pull at one of the prettiest locations that you'll go to. Great place to take the whole family and going way out west. Hoping to dodge the rain this year. Got a couple 3 runs I want to show you guys from this one. Let's start it off with Miles Jumps cranking the RPM on his Pro Stock 4-wheeler and his name's going to come back around before this show is over as well.
Missouri, Miles Jump's going to take his shot at it, calls it noise complaint. RPMs through the roof with that one. This is another one of those trucks that I think is going to be knocking on the door very.
I remember that track that night being almost perfect. We threw a ton. We threw a ton of iron at it, 120 or more vehicles, and it never fell apart. I don't remember that track falling apart. It always baffles me. That's out there in those Nebraska kind of sand hills. It's a real silty, sandy soil everywhere except the track. Now, I don't know if they import that soil in or if they've just really got it figured out after all these years. It didn't like the rain on Thursday. We had a cloud just sit on us for, the better part of the day on Thursday and all day Friday. We couldn't get that thing dried out. But Saturday, it was a thing of beauty. Let's blow some smoke. Limited Pro Stock, Brent Paddock. This is actually kind of fun. I didn't do this on purpose, but we're going to go back-to-back Mound City. Miles Jumps out of Mound City, Missouri. And we will be going to Mound City, Missouri this year. First time the Outlaws have been over there. And then Brent Paddock from Mound City, Kansas, where, of course, we will go back to Mound City, Kansas. Yet again, another super unique venue. So 2 pulls that I always look forward to. Mound City, Missouri. Grew up watching that one. Super stoked to have that one on the Outlaw schedule. Mound City, Kansas puller Brent Paddock pulling at Ravena, Nebraska. Check this one out.
John Deere horsepower. Start lugging there at the end. I think he's going to come up a little bit short of that Schaefer oil barrel lead distance marker there.
All right, so nice run right there from Brent Paddock. Got a good question right here. John Arding, going back to Super Farms that we took a look at Norfork, Nebraska, says, what size turbos do they run on those? It'll be a 3-inch turbocharger. 640 cubic inch under the hood, 24 5s on the back, no components on the rear end. 3-inch charger on that, which reminds me, I need to kind of flip through my Outlaw rule books for 2026 and just make sure that any quirky changes that we're all familiar with right there, but they are running the 3-inch charger in the Super Farm class. Good question, John. Got one more for you fine folks to take a look at as that evening kind of waned on a little bit right there. Greg Jagger in the Wampuscat gonna lay down a great looking run right here to close out the evening in the Pro Stock.
All righty, he's chasing that distance, 3:30.19 out of Hazard, Nebraska. Greg Jagger piloting Wampuscat. Solid pass. I don't know that you can change much about that right there.
Good run right there for Greg Jagger. I was actually commenting. I said that pass was absolutely solid. I said I don't think there's much you could change about that. But looking back, I can actually see that he got on the right brake early. So always fun to go back and see those little things that as a puller and as an announcer that maybe you don't see in live time. Great thing that you see on Full Pull Live right there. Great way to go back and look at it. I know a lot of our pullers love to do that. Go back and look at the data. Because like I said, that looked like a perfect pass in real time, but looking back a year later, I can see it did look like he got on the right brake. So Ravena, Nebraska, going to be the second week of the Outlaw schedule. Let me get you those dates just to be certain. June 12th and 13th always a great setup. Kurt Koyman, another one, man. A lot of people that I want to talk about, a lot of people who made my list of things I need to say are chiming into the show. So I love that. Andrew Sprock, don't go anywhere. Kurt Koyman, don't go anywhere, because I have a caveat for you as well. Correcting me a little bit here, saying 3.6-inch charger. Now, I was actually saying to myself, because one thing that my person not being mechanically inclined, I don't always do a great job relaying the inlet versus the outlet. So, Kurt, if you have more information on that, type it up, and I will steal that and put it on screen. So he says 3.6-inch charger on the Super Farm class. Now, is that front and back, both sides at 3.6, or is that one side a little bit bigger? Are we 3-inch on one side and 3.6-inch on the other? The last thing I want to talk about on pulls for the year, let's go ahead and throw a shout out to that Full Pull on the Turf, because they're going to do something really unique this year. So Full Pull on the Turf going to be making their debut for the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Puller Association down in Colbert, Oklahoma, June 26th and 27th, put on by the Wager family down there. So take a look at their promotional banner that they have. Beautiful banner right there, but that's not what I want to show you guys. What I want to show you guys are the trophies that they're going to be giving away. And I did something I don't know if you're supposed to do. So if you are like the social media or like the internet police, tell me if I like did a no here. But I took a little screen recording of a person I follow on YouTube. So nobody sue me, because I took a 5-second screen recording of YouTube. Just wanted to have a little fun with it. I watch a YouTuber out there. I'm not a huge firearms enthusiast, but I would say I'm as much as the next red-blooded Midwestern American. And it's certainly something I enjoy. I'll put it that way while staying politically correct. But one person I watch out there, he's on YouTube, and he does a lot of firearms reviews, especially with collector pieces or classic pieces. And Full Pull on the Turf is going to be giving away a lever action Henry Rifle Golden Boy edition to every winner. And I think this is each winner of each session. I don't think it's overall 2 nights. I think if you win Friday or Saturday, you're going home with a lever action Henry Golden Boy. And he's even got a variety of what they're chambered in. Of course, we're talking about one of these right here. I think this one from this gentleman on YouTube is a 357 Magnum. Now, if I remember right, they're going to give you the choice. They've got the 22, the 17 HMR, the 4570, the 3030, the 357, the 44 Magnum. I think they've got it all. Wonderful rifles. I've got one myself. I don't have the Golden Boy, but I do have the Henry with that good old Missouri-grown walnut stock. That's always a plug for the Show Me State, is all the walnut that they use in the construction of those rifles right here out of the Show Me State. But imagine that, going home with one of those iconic Golden Boys to your taste. So Ron and I were talking about this last week. What chamber would you take yours in? I've got the 22. It's sitting right there. It's going to stay nice and off screen so we don't get in trouble here. But it's right over here. I don't know. 30-30. That's an iconic round. 44 Magnum. Actually, I got my brother-in-law one when he got married. He loves it. 4570 would be pretty cool to have as well. Ben Beller was saying, believe NTPA runs only a 3-inch Super Farm turbo. There's a couple of other things that are a little different between. So we're jumping back to the Super Farms here. I know at one point in time, Outlaw Super Farms were running headers when other associations weren't running headers. There is a slight difference in setup when it comes to the Super Farms from association to association. Yeah, so John says NTPA is 3 in, 3 out running their charger right there. I know that I always called it a 3-inch charger. Now, Kurt, who obviously has a Super Farm as well as a Pro Stock, tell me it's 3.6. So I'll make sure that I thumb through that and get that a little bit more dialed in. Andrew says it needs to have Outlaw winner engraved on it. That'd be cool too. I think Lacey, I'm not going to speak on his behalf, but I feel like I overheard discussions of something of that effect. I could be way wrong here. Lacey's gonna come on here and say Mike doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like the turbocharger in the Super Farm. He's off by a little bit here, but I feel like someone suggested that, or discuss that as well. Yeah, this is true. White Right Tractor Pull gave out some pretty sweet coolers last year. Yeah, no doubt about it. And the Henry rifles have been given away before. I know that Rumble by the Refuge in Mountain City, Missouri used to give out several years ago, decade or more, used to give out Henry rifle 22s to the overall weekend winner in each class. So a lot of cool trophies out there that people give away, whether it be belt buckles or director's chairs or the weights that Rock Valley used to give out. Last year they gave out tires, which were really, really cool. The Thunderbolt at Thunder by the River, obviously super cool. So a lot of cool trophies out there, but a usable, applicable Henry Golden Boy rifle. Hats off to the Weger family down there in Colbert, Oklahoma. They are sparing nothing to make sure that we have a great pull down there. So a lot of awesome pulls coming up. And now I told you guys I'm going to do something that I don't typically do. If you watched the Iowa State Fair last year, I was announcing with Jason Schultz. And I avoid this like the plague because I love everybody. I love every puller. I hate to, put my 10 cents out there because I don't ever want to feel like there's any favoritism or anything to that effect. Jason looked at me. I remember this specifically. Donald Nelson had pulled Buster out to like 342 and change, and he called on the microphone. He says, "Mike, is that going to win the pull? Will Donald win the pull?" And I was always hesitant. He was having fun with that. I said, that's going to be a tough distance to beat. There's a lot of good iron back there. You know all the things an announcer's supposed to say. And he pinned me down. And he said, is that going to win the pull? Yes or no? Give me an answer. And so tonight I'm going to do that a little bit. I'm going to say, here are my insider predictions for 2026. Tell me if you agree, if you don't agree. Tell me who you've got in each class. But I gave myself a parameter, which kind of allows me to still stay impartial. So the rules to my own personal game, I was not allowed. I cannot pick any vehicle that has won a points championship in each of the previous 2 seasons. So if you're a 2025 points champion, I did not allow myself to pick you. If you're a 2024 points champion, I did not allow myself to pick you. What this does, it keeps it light, it keeps it fun. People then can realize that, whoever's going to win is going to win. But it also forces us as announcers, analysts, fans, pullers to think outside the box. If it wasn't the obvious choice, if it's not the guy on the hot streak, if it's not last year or even the year before's champion, who's due? Who could get around him? Who's there? And boy, it led to some interesting thought pieces. Now, Robert Miner, of course, has the golden question, who all's running for points? And that was part of it too, because I had to look at it. We don't have a pre-commit list or anything in the effect as of right now. So Robert, what I did is I used the app and I had to look at it and say, okay, who can win at any point in time? But also, who do I anticipate will be at every hook? Kind of circles back to Andrew Sprock and the Sprock Farms with them openly declaring that they were going to run with the Outlaws. I said that shakes things up a little bit. That's not a vehicle that I can ignore. So those are all some unknown variables. So rules to the game, points champion in every class, but I cannot pick a 2025 or 2024 points winner. So stop and think about that in some of those classes where we've seen some real dominance. You have to pick someone else. So I'm going to pull up my sheet of paper here. We'll go through it. Tell me in the comments who you would pick. So super modified 2-wheel drive trucks. We'll go trucks, tractors, modifieds, and semis in that order. And in a few places I broke the rules because it's my game and, I'm hosting by myself tonight and no one's going to stop me. So you can tell me what you think right there. Trucks, tractors, mods, and semis going in that order. Super modified 2-wheel drive trucks. So you cannot take Nelson. You cannot take Morris and Buffalo's chips. Those are off the table. Now, notice I said vehicle, not driver. I feel like I have heard people talking about it. I don't want to let any cats out of the bag because this is speculation, but I feel like I've heard grumblings that we should not be surprised if we see Cole Zijek more this summer. I took that inch and turned it into a mile. So my pick for the 2026 super modified 2-wheel drive truck division operating on that limited concept, I'm going to hear any tiny rumor that I can that we're going to see Cole a lot. And boom, that becomes a very easy pick for me right there. Okay, so if you can't pick Donald Nelson and you can't pick Richard Morris, then I'm going Cole Zajac, Texas two-step, 2026 points champion. That's who I'm going to – and I should write this down now. It'd be kind of fun if I can look back in November and say how close was I. I'll save this list. So super modified two-wheel drive truck. It's going to come out of the Zajac stable. Cole Zajac with Texas two-step. Mike, the announcer's prediction and pick. Tell me what you think. Ooh, Chris Kilbarger jumping in says, Sweet Pain is winning modifieds this year. This class gave me fits. Hold on to that. I'm going to put that comment back on there later. John Hunt, great pick. I love that pick. I've heard discussions about that as well, that we're going to see him a lot. That's also a phenomenal pick. Hey, look at this. We're talking about Texas Truck and Tractor Pullers Association. And look at these Texas guys representing things well. But, yeah, I think John Hunt's a great pick. Cole Zajac's my pick. Hey, man, a lot of tough iron out there. Class number 2, modified four-wheel drive trucks. My favorite class, and this was a kerfluffle. So, Thorntons, can't pick them, okay? Thumper's out, Ramrod's out. They're each of your past champions. So, natural progression would then say, well, okay. I said Ramrod. Ramrod's not out, but Thumper's out. And their Chevrolet is out as well. Backdraft is out. So you would think I would go to Ramrod, right? My hang up there, I believe that the Ford and the Chevy, I saw them beat the Dodge quite a bit last year. So I was hesitant to pick the Dodge. I can't pick one that I don't feel is going to be the best in the stable or who won the most in the stable. So I actually went with a previous points champion in a different class. Modified four-wheel drive truck, the last person to beat Keith Hammonds, who has won 8 of the last 9 points championships in the pro stock trucks, was Derek Brown. Now, Derek Brown has jumped over into the mod four-wheel drives. Derek Brown found himself sitting 4th at the National Farm Machinery Show. That truck, really, he had a lot to figure out about that truck 2 years ago. But suddenly he is, and suddenly that's a champion. So that's an admitted dark horse, but my pick, if you can't pick Team Thornton, my pick, Derek Brown, 2026 points champion in the Holland grass or the high-class grass, modified four-wheel drive. Look at that, Cole Lundahl, right on the same page. It's crazy how often you and I are on the same page with this stuff. This was tough. Because I had Doug and Dustin in my mind for forever, and then I had Major in my mind as well. I saw Major get a win up at the Mars last year, and I just feel like he has the stuff too. But I'm going to pick a previous points champion, Derek Brown. Let's go on to limited pro stock diesel truck. This one was easier for me. Who's going to get around Skylar Leeper? You can't pick Skylar Leeper. He's got each of the past couple of points championships. So I'm going to go with the guy that's knocking on the door constantly. I'm going to go with the guy that Skylar Leeper feels that he has to beat to earn the points championship every year. Jason Wayman out of Novinger, Missouri in Megatron. I feel like that's a very comfortable pick. Got a good question right here talking about mod four-wheel drive trucks. Will Claypools be back? I talked to Joe at the banquet, and I bump into Joe from time to time. Of course, Joe lives just down the road over there in Macon, Missouri. And I've heard positive things out of that. Just the fact that we saw him at the banquet, I feel that is a good sign. I don't know. I haven't asked him that direct question. I know he loves pulling, and that's a man that I don't think that you're going to take away from the pulling track permanently. So I think Joe Claypool is someone that I certainly look forward to seeing back at the track. Chris says Megatron's a good pick. I appreciate that. Modified two-wheelers. This one was also kind of easy on me. I feel like you're not going to pick David James. You're not going to pick Luke Renner. Those guys are out as your previous points champions. Actually, Luke's had each of the past 2, so I probably could have went with James. But a guy that I just watched play bridesmaid continually, and I know he's got it in him. Another one of those like Leeper and Wayman. It's kind of like Renner and Matt Phelps. Matt Phelps, I feel like you have to get past him to get the points championship. I just feel that's how that class plays out. Matt Phelps in the dirt has been right there very regularly, very consistently. That's a truck that I think has a points championship in it. So he's my pick for the 2026 season. And then that brings us to the Pro stock 4-wheel drives. Okay. This is kind of how you base the whole game. The whole game kind of comes off this. You can't pick Keith Hammons. You're not allowed to. That's how it is. He's won 8 of the last 9. You can't pick any of the last 2. So if someone's going to get past Keith, who is it going to be? Ben Beller said that it would be the Rat Trap. Now, Keith, if you're watching, obviously I'm a huge believer in what you do. I think Keith is an absolute scientist of the sport of pulling. But just hypothetically, if there was to be someone to upset him, someone that I've seen win on the biggest of stages and someone who's been very active and reworking some things in the off season this year, just showed a highlight of him, Miles Jumps and the noise complaint. Of course, my mind went to Rat Trap. I think that's a really, really solid pick. My mind went to Phil Chrysler. My mind went to Toby Vanderpool. But I think Miles owns Rock Valley. He just dominates up there. He wins on really big stages. He's another one, kind of like Keith. He's one of the earliest ones to the track. I feel like I see him putting in a ton of homework, a ton of study. I've seen him kind of rework on that truck this year. He finished 3rd or 4th last year. I'm a believer in what Miles has going on. Tater Wagon 2, that's a fun one as well. So that's a great class. I love that class because even though Keith does win the points championship, there's so many people that are so competitive, as these comments show right here. And that's just a really good old school pulling class. If you love RPM and track reading, that's the one for you. Yeah, that's a good point. He says there's about 6 to 8 trucks that are right there. And I hate to even say after Bipolar. I would say they're all right there. Bipolar's just been dominant. He's just been dominant. Moving on to the tractors, 3200 Super Field in a class that has been dominated by the Red Ones. We're going to circle back because I like this comment. Yeah, Matt Phelps says 2nd place 3 years in a row. We have a saying when I coach, a couple of different things that I coach up here in Bevier, Missouri. It's tough to beat a good team 3 times. That's kind of proof is in the pudding right there. So I feel like Matt knocking on the door, and I'll say it again. I don't know if you're listening earlier, if you're just tuning in. I feel like the class goes through Matt. I think everyone kind of says we have to get around Phelps if we're going to win this year. So yeah, he's my pick 2026. Look out. That one's a very achievable goal. 3200 Superfield, dominated by internationals. It's a 466 class, that's a 466. Obviously that's an international motor. But there's one man that I feel like I bump into in the winner's circle a lot. I don't always see him. Maybe he's a feast or famine. Maybe there's pulls he doesn't go to. But it seems like when I'm right in the middle of doing a big 2-day show and I've got to sprint downstairs to do an interview, I feel like I bump into Casey Osmus constantly. It surprised me that he finished where he finished this past year. I don't think he was in the top 3. But, if I can't take Peterson and I can't take Kavanaugh, then I'm going to take him. Now, I almost went with the Dark Knight, with Adam Serve. Adam Serve, I feel like, is a very consistent finisher. Casey Osmus, I feel like, is one of those shoots from the hip, goes out and wins on the big stages. I went with the Gunslinger on this one. Casey's my pick on the can't pick the past winners. So that's who I've got in the 3200 Superfield. Yeah, Rum Runner Mark Reardon was another one I thought long and hard about. This is another kind of like the pro stock truck class. If you get away from the ones that have kind of dominated and you go to the 2 through 10 finishers, it's anybody's game in this class as well. Sliding on down to the light pro stock. On the light pros, I didn't pick one. I'm going to break my own rules. Didn't pick a winner. Don't have a winner. Don't have a 2026 winner. Narragon and Shellum have been very, very dominant in this class. My winner for this class is numbers. I feel like this class we don't know enough about where it's going to go in 2026. So I didn't pick a winner for this one. We're just going to wait and see. I don't feel like I couldn't pick against the guys who had won it recently, and there's not enough data that I felt like I could make a great pick. So my winner for the 2026 light pro stock class would be, let's get 8 pullers at every single hook. Let's get 10 pullers at every hook. Yes, Chuck Cleveland, Pro 4x4 and tractors have 2 regions this year. Yeah, Pro Stock 4-wheel drive is operating in 2 regions. And so I guess I would say I'm operating in a traditionalist mindset here. But that's a good point. I'll be honest with you, I did not take that into consideration. So if I were to look at it and split, I would do it very much like I just did my light pro stock. And I would say, let's wait and see what the 2 division setup would look like. But that is a very good thing, a very good point to keep in mind to a lot of our fans and pullers out there. Diesel super stock. This one again, I put a big asterisk on it. Scott Frankie with the Chance Encounter was my pick, but I don't know that I'll see him at every single event this year. That's another class, Diesel Super Stocks. What does the future have to hold for this class? I don't know yet. So that I'm going to pick the Chance Encounter. That thing was tough this past year, but ran a selective schedule, hit the pulls he wanted to hit. Totally understand that. So I had to say if he were to go to everyone, but that was part of the parameters. You had to pick someone you felt like was going to be at everyone. So we'll wait and see with the Diesel Super Stock class. Light Limited Pro Stocks. I'm going to break my own rules again. I picked 2. I couldn't decide between them. It's not going to be a tie, but it's going to be one of these 2 guys if it's not the guys that have won it in the past, or if it's not the whole stinking field. Light Limited Pro Stocks, are you kidding me? This class has seen 11 different points champions and 11 different winners. And this is a class where 1 through 15, anybody could win on any given night. That being said, my picks were 2 people that got off to a really hot start last year. Early season heavy hitters are Mike Hargens and Randall Guerra. I've watched both of those guys jump out to a points lead early in each of the past 2 seasons, and I just feel like they pull a lot. Mike Hargens, I like every time I'm at a pulling event, I turn around and he's there. And he's just hanging out. I'm like, hey, man, like, what's up? Like, he goes to pulls. Him and Johansson, they just go to pulls. It's what they do any chance that they get. Austin's going with Mason Brink. Man, he was right there as well. If Andrew Meister comes back strong, but of course he was points champion 2 years ago. The Kenny Beeson, there's a lot of tough runners in this one. But I'm going to say Randall Guerra or Mike Hargens or anybody else. So breaking rules here, okay? There's no one to stop me. Limited Pro Stock. I picked 2 again. Limited Pros. I feel like I have one that is consistency, and I feel like I have one that is a gunslinger heavy hitter. The Davidsons with the High Velocity Legacy Edition. Wow, I saw some strong stuff out of them at the back half of the year last year. I know that they weren't out on the season and they just kind of got everything back where they wanted it on the back half of the season last year. But from about Weeping Water on, that tractor was almost unstoppable. I don't know what their plans are. I don't know where they'll be, where they won't be, but there's something about the way that vehicle runs. It was fresh, it was hot, it was mean, and it feels poised for a championship. Now, my Mr. Consistency, a man who I believe believes in this class and someone that I have seen just do well under big pressure, and a man I kind of feel is due for a resurgence or due for a points championship. I don't know the last time he had one, but I think he needs another one. David Novak, I don't know. I'd be hard-pressed to say I've met a guy who has pulling's interest more near and dear to his heart and just gets the job done through work and just does a good job. The tractor, it doesn't miss. That guy doesn't miss very often. So those are the 2 that I picked, but that's another class we're going to have to wait and see. It's going to be fun to see the narrative of how that pans out this season. Light Super Stocks. Give me Alan Omer. He has paid the dues. He has brought that tractor around. He has not been deterred at any point in the process. He sends me Snapchats every single night where he has that thing torn down to obviously stuff I don't understand, but he burns the midnight oil in his shop left and right. He's a super intelligent guy. He's another one that has pulling's interest as a whole and Outlaws at his absolute best interest. Seriously, just good dude and understands, I think, the dynamics of pulling very well. He's due. I think who else you going to pick? You know, give me Omer and the Never Enough right there. Light Super Stock Ag, another person who sends me messages frequently. And I mean, just wants it. I'll be honest with you. If there's one guy that has made it clear to me that he is loaded for bear, that he's got all 6 of them cocked and ready to go, and he is out for a championship, Kurt Paulson and the Crazy Horse. This is a guy that has taken the offseason and said, I want it, and I want it bad. And we are locked and loaded, and the horse is going to be a mean running gal this year. He's done a lot to that tractor. And, okay, if you're not going to pick anybody else, this was almost a straight-up pick. This was almost no parameters anyway. But Kurt Paulson, if he runs that thing the way he ran it in Madison, South Dakota for a whole season, watch out for that. A couple of other comments here. Chris Kilberger says, you throw a blanket over the light limited pro stock class. Always close. Anybody's. Never count Alan Omer out for sure. And Cole agreeing with me that Alan's going to be one to watch in 2026. I think so. He lets his work speak for him more than his words, and he's put in the work, and I expect good things out of that. Pro Stock Tractor, Mr. Koima, if you're still with us, here's where I'm going to bring you into the fray. So who's going to be my 2026 points champion? Caden Weger and the Kids' Inheritance. I think the Weger tractor is going to be extremely hard to get around. If I'm not allowing myself to pick Lacey's tractor, I'm going to pick Caden's tractor. So that's my pick. But I think 2026 is going to be a building year for 2, if not 3 tractors. And 2027, I think you're going to see a shifting of the guard. I think 2026 is the transitional building year for 8-second ride and Barn Buddy HD. Schluter's new pro stock. I think that the Koima tractor and Rosenboom and their new tractor, as they turn that into a 2-tractor team, I think they're getting close. I think Chuck Schluter is another one of those been pulling a long time. But Robert Miner says colorblind as a 5-0. I think Taylor Van Beek with his that he's kind of getting that seat time in as well. I look for 2026 to be a year where these guys get used to this class, and then 2027 is the one to really look out for. Ben Beller says Hillbilly Deluxe, so Hillbilly Express with Jimmy Brackett. 2026, the year of the Wampuscat. I thought about Brackett. I thought about Jagger. I'm going to stay with the Wager family. I'm going to go with Caden this year, but I think we're going to see a major shakeup in 2027. Extreme Pleasure is there as well. You see a lot of these switching over. That class is going to start chasing itself in a hurry, and it's going to be fun to watch. Super Farms. The wheels are off. I do whatever I want. I pick 2 again. Jared Johansson, Brad Halinga. Simple as that. Okay. If I'm not going to pick Alan Andrews and I'm not going to pick Chad Weisenkamp, and I'm going to stay away from a couple other obvious ones. That's another one. Are you kidding me? I would actually say that the Outlaw Super Farms are as competitive a single class in pulling as you will find anywhere. This class is loaded 1 through 20. Brad Halinga has been an absolute bullet to dodge for 2 years in a row now. Jared Johansson is turning into someone who just left foot up, right hand down, and get out of my way. And when he's kind of the definition of if she goes, she goes. If she blows, she blows. And when that son of a gun lights, everybody watch out. But both of those tractors I find very entertaining to watch. You're always drawn to an Alice Chalmers D21. But those are my picks. Johansson, the dynamic duo that is Mike Hargens and Jared Johansson, I feel like those guys eat tractor pulling cereal for breakfast. If there's a pull, they're somehow at it, involved in it. They're there. Every time I turn around, they're doing something with it. So it's just hard to pick against them. Austin also saying that Halinga as well in the endangered species. That one is becoming a tractor that class is afraid of. Let's shift on over to the light limited modifieds. Let's go modified pulling. Zuck Fukerberg chiming in here saying, Greg Jagger is a good guy. Absolutely no doubt about it. So, Doug, thank you for watching out there. Hope everything's going well in Texas. Modifieds. Light limited modified. I immediately went to my good friend, good buddy, Wes Sievers. And I thought about it. And I thought, you know what? The turbines have really shown us something with the Outlaws lately. So the big brother in the modified, 7,400 pound modified, won a championship last year. Another guy who I feel is very much left foot up, right hand down. If she goes, she goes. If she blows, she blows. It is just a whole ball of get out of my way in that class in his driving style is Beckman. I'm going to go with Andrew Beckman in the pure pressure. I would like that'd be fun. I really, the odds have been dominant in that class. I think that everyone feels that Wes is the heir apparent, and I agree. And I think Wes is one of my best friends in the Outlaws. But I just don't feel like you should sleep on Beckman in that class. He was your overall winner at Rock Valley last year, and that thing is an absolute fighter and a biter when it's right, too. I would find that entertaining to see another turbine winning out there. Chris Kilbarger says, definitely, if I was doing full pool picks, I would always pick the field in Superfarm. Yeah, no doubt about it. Ben Beller says Dustin Corliss gonna beat the boss this year. Wayne Longnecker will be in light mod also. So I did know this. Wayne was actually, I thought about him in the modified, and I just don't know. I don't know. I didn't know how much to make that news public. I know that rumor is getting out there, and I know we've even talked about it on the show. I considered it. I'm going to go with pure pressure Andrew Beckman, 2026 points champion in the light limited modified. So the modifieds is probably the hardest class. Okay. Mr. Doug Voth down there. Weigh in on that. Your class is so intriguing, so entertaining. So Petch is off the table. Can't take Thermal Thunder. Cameron's off the table. So who are you going to go if not one of those two? Donald Nelson, obviously a heavy hitter. I thought about Vern Huser. I thought about Kent Urbon. But there is one team that I have really watched a lot in this offseason, and they are hungry. They are resolved. I won't say that they're angry. You know how some people can be like, man, I got to have it. They are resolved. And they said, we are a championship team. Excellence is our standard. We have not won the championship of each of the past 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to rectify that situation. I'm talking Sweet Pain. I have watched what the Ulmers have been doing. They sent a message at Freedom Hall. You can talk about a light sled or you can talk about sand pile. What I saw in that as a fan and a broadcaster was watch out for the triple Chevys because we are not lifting this year. Love the new sponsorship wrap that they have on the fuel tanks. And I think that this, and I thought about this too in the modified class, because I'm a Hemi guy. I like Hemis. I like 3/4. I like 2/3. I love that setup. I think it's neat. But Simons have just proved that it's simple math. 4 is more than 3, even at 871 compared to 1471. 4 is more than 3. I stuck to that logic. 3 is more than 2. I think this is the year that you see this year you see Sweet Pain with the Ulmers come back just because I think they're going to refuse to take no for an answer. I just think they are going to, out of sheer determination, park that tractor there. Yeah, Steve Hood and Hush Money, that's a great pick as well. It's going to be fun to see how many of those Illinois guys do we see coming over with the Bunnages and with the Bollingers. Are we going to see a lot out of them? I didn't know, so I didn't pick, but boy, that's going to be a fun class to watch this year. Last class on the docket, and I'm going to go out with an absolute fizzle instead of a bang. Pro stock semis. Who are you going to pick? I didn't make a pick. That class, I love every last one of them. That class wins the pull because anytime they roll out, it's like when they put Bigfoot out on the track in the 1980s after a tractor pull, and the fans are like, I forgot I went to a tractor pull. When the semis come out, they steal the show. I just root for that class. I want to see numbers in that class. Give me 10 of them. That would be incredible. I don't have enough data to pick. Just want to see that class doing awesome. So I didn't make a pick in that, but I made the rules up and I haven't gotten penalized yet. Quite a few modifieds here in Texas now. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, shoot, Donald's got 3 all by himself. A lot of good iron down there as well. Doug saying if Wayne Bunnage runs points, he will be tough. Absolutely. That's a fun class. What about my roadie? Don't forget about him either. You know, he's got one that he's ready to rock and roll in that one. What if Bullwhip comes back for a full season? And Mike is right, and the Hemis don't win, but it's not the Chevys either. You know, why not Griffin Growl, Doug? Hey, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be automotive. It can be anybody out there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sitting through my ramblings for a full hour. It's fun. I encourage you to do that. You know, call your dad, call your best friend, call your pulling buddy, and talk pulling. It's my favorite thing to do. And challenge yourself. Who's going to win this year if you can't pick the guy that won last year? You know, Outlaws do such a great job putting a great product out there on the track. It always gives us something to talk about, gives us something to watch, gives us something to just be passionate about. You know, pulling's fun, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next Tuesday again for Outlawed Live. Thanks for watching.